everybody, and welcome to the Makers in Minnesota podcast, where we talk to cool people doing cool things. I'm Stephanie Hansen, or Stephanie's Dish on Instagram, and I've been doing this podcast for about 5 years. And this product landed on my kitchen counter about a year ago, and I was able to make some delicious mocktails with it. I'm welcomed today by Kat Duvik, and she has founded Social Mixers. And Kat, I was just reading your story this morning because I've used your products now for about a year and recommended them all through the holidays and, of course, dry January for a lot of people. But I didn't realize you were from New Orleans.
I am. Yep. Born and raised. My family, they're all still down there. I'm the weirdo who decided that she wanted to live at the top of the Mississippi River instead of the bottom. So
Sure. Well, that is the home of the cocktail, right?
it is. Yeah. It's the home. It was the introduction of the cocktail to North America.
Okay.
So yes. And so New Orleans loves to claim that it was the home of the cocktail. But there's some history that it was created a little bit before. So
I wondered because I think they also claim to be the inventor of the French 75 cocktail.
Hmm, they do, but I think that actually came out of a different bar. But they do have out of New York, maybe, but they do have the French 75 bar in New
I've
Orleans.
been there.
And I will say this, New Orleans, they make the best cocktails, and it is the inventor of the Sazerac, which to me is like the perfect cocktail. So
Oh, that's funny. That's the way I feel about the hurricane because there's
oh
nothing better
yeah.
when you're on vacation than a hurricane.
Oh my gosh, I do. I do love hurricanes. Drank many of those in my college days, and try to get one when I get back down there. We try to stop by. My husband and I try to stop by Patos and get one. So
Yes. So let's just talk about how you decided to develop these cocktail syrups called the Social Mixers.
sure. Well, it's funny. My original plan is I just wanted to work with plants. I love plants. I love putting plants in food. I especially love working with florals. And so my original concept is I was going to make floral syrup and like rose syrup and elderflower syrup and lavender syrup. And I was going to wholesale it to coffee shops and bars. That was
Yep.
my original idea for the business. And I started working on that. And then that was in 2019. And then 2020 happened.
Sure.
And it's like right when I had that business plan, I think pretty solid. And then everything, we had lockdown. And so I had to pivot. And that's when I decided to go ahead and just bottle it and sell it direct to consumer. So that was kind of the beginnings of Social Mixers. And we started with 3 flavors. Rose, which I always say rose is my baby because that was the first syrup. Ginger, lemongrass, and then hibiscus rosehip. And then since then, we've added 3 more flavors.
And what are the 3 that you've added?
Lemon rosemary, which is actually becoming our most popular, elderflower thyme, and then lime coriander, which we just got word of a few weeks ago is a finalist for a National Good Food Foundation award. So
Oh,
really
that's
excited
so
about that.
exciting. Yes. So what was it? Tell me about your background. Like, did you just come to plants naturally? Why did you think that this making these infusions or that you could make these syrups better than were already being made?
Sure. Well, the plant thing, I don't know, it just sort of happened. I like working with plants, and I kind of dove into herbalism, kind of dove into that head first, wound up doing an apprenticeship with an herbalist. And after that, it was like I knew I wanted to make something, and I wasn't sure, was it going to be body care? Was it going to be like herbal medicine? And I like to call these the medicine of joy because
Yes, for sure.
there are medicinal benefits to the botanicals, but really it's about fun and it's about connection. And that's really what I honed in on, this idea of making this delicious drink that can bring people together. When I was working on the idea of wholesaling it to coffee shops, it was like, oh, we'll create these awesome flavors. People will be excited. They'll meet their friends, so just kind of an avenue for connection and joy. That
You
was,
seemed you seemed right on the precipice too, because during the pandemic, people were dying to have cocktails that
yeah.
they could make, and they didn't have ingredients and they didn't know how to make them. So your company, another company, Mixley, you guys kind of all Muddle and Mint sort of came on the scene in that same year of like helping people make cocktails. And was that a surprise Because you were thinking more like coffee syrup, social.
It's funny. It was coffee originally, and then it kind of, with the pandemic, it kind of spurred into cocktails. And it is funny. And Sweet Haven tonics too is another one.
Yep.
We all kind of came, we're like pandemic business babies.
Yep.
We all came around the same time. And it's not surprising because so many people were at home, as you said, they wanted access to that really good cocktail. And so they were making them themselves. And that's what my husband and I were doing. I mean, we were joking around when we were doing content for the website, especially because we were working from home at the time. So that we didn't have a commute. We didn't even really have to spend a lot of time getting ready in the morning. We were experimenting with a lot of cocktails to where we
Right.
were like, we have to stop. This is starting to get out of hand. So that's when we were like, let's make more mocktails. Let's do mocktails on weekdays, and then we'll do cocktails on the weekends.
Yep.
So it does not surprise me at all that these businesses came out. I'm actually really good friends with Hallie from Muddle and Mint. She's awesome. And I think her product too, how she does the mixers, but also the canned mocktail that you can add spirits to. I mean, I think the timing was right for it.
Yeah. And you're all, like you've mentioned a handful, and I've interviewed all of you. And you're all very different though, too. Like some are more juice forward, others are more bitters based, yours are more on the syrup side. It's very interesting that all of these products came about during that same time frame, but you're all pretty different. And I enjoy many of the products in equal measure. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you want more of a syrup, other times you're looking more for a more juice forward situation. Like it's very interesting how all of these products have found and maintained their way on my home bar.
I love it. I love that. And I think that kind of speaks to Minnesota, kind of speaks to the area. Like we have such a great food scene and such great access to these awesome ingredients. And we're all, I guess, in a way, we're just exposed through to different things,
Yeah.
for lack of a better way to say it. I actually, that's something I always say is really cool when people ask me about the other mixer companies, is that we are all so unique.
Yep.
And I think that's awesome.
So let's talk about how hard is it to you make this product, and like, do you make it in a co-packing kitchen, or kind of walk me through how you make your flavored syrups?
Sure thing. I mean, I think one thing that's kind of special about our product is that it does come from the whole ingredients. That's sort of my love of the plants. I love, like, I take a lemon, zest the lemon, get the lemon juiced. I try to use as much of the plant as possible. And I think there's a vibrancy, a flavor with that. So kind of an old school way of doing it. But I make it at the Good Acre, which is a shared kitchen. A lot of great businesses are in there, have gone through there. It's just a great community space. So I make it there. They've got a 20-gallon kettle. And so I started with a pot, and then got a bigger pot, and then have moved my way into the kettle. And it's really that simple. I take these wonderful plants, and I take sugar. I use organic cane sugar, and I use all organic non-GMO plants for this, and make magic.
Yeah, you
It's
boil
really,
it, and there you go, and you bottle
yeah,
it.
it's really fun, and it's what's great is, especially like if I'm zesting citrus or if I'm making lemon rosemary, people will stick their head in the kitchen.
Oh yeah.
Everybody's like, "Oh, it smells so good," and I always joke around. I'm like, it's like a aromatherapy on the job. So
I've used your syrups too in salad dressing. I don't know if that's ever occurred to you, or if you ever do that at home.
that's amazing. We do. What's funny is, so I always take a test bottle from every single batch just to make sure, that something didn't go awry that I missed. And so we wind up with a lot. And so sometimes we give it away to friends, but we'll experiment. And so I have used lemon rosemary and vinaigrette. And my husband, he's been working on a wing sauce
Oh,
with
yum.
ginger lemongrass for like 2 years now, but it's not ready. Every
Okay.
time I ask him about it, he's like, no, it's not ready. It's not ready to share yet. Because I'm like, we could put it on the website. He's like, oh, it's close. But
The
he's like,
other way to use your syrups that I've done is over a pound cake,
perfect.
like as the
Ooh,
glaze that, you put on
yes.
the top.
Yes. I mean, it's a simple syrup. I
Yeah.
mean, that's what it is. And so soaking a cake, or you could put it on ice cream.
Mhm.
It really is, it's a flexible ingredient. That's sort of how I've always viewed it, is yes, you can put it in a cocktail. That's sort of everybody's go-to. When I sell them at the market, we talk about all the different cocktails, that you can make with it, but it also does have such a variety of uses, that yeah, that I love that. I love it when people tell me about using it in baking.
I think dry January too, really sober tober, dry January, whatever you want to call your, a lot of us were drinking too much during the pandemic, I think, just because we had nothing else to do or nothing to get up for in the morning. And it was just kind of a really stressful time for a lot of people. And then many of us embraced the idea of the mocktail when we were like, this probably isn't feeling so healthy. I do love that there are all kinds of ways for people to enjoy your product, and some in alcohol, but also not necessarily, because I think the mocktail has matured so much. It used to be when you weren't drinking, you were offered orange juice and soda water.
Yeah.
And this has really allowed people, I think, to still participate in what is festive moments and cocktail party culture and just culinary culture, but without it having to be spirit forward. And I think you guys have done a great job of marketing that and also like providing recipes.
Yeah, I love doing recipe development. I love it. I know I spoke earlier more of like the plant thing. I do have some bartending in my background. I always have to frame it as it was the 90s, it was Louisiana. And so my first bartending job, I was 17.
Sure,
Uh, so I started young, and I remember getting the bar book. Every time somebody would order something, I'd be like, no problem, be right back. And so I'd open up the bar book,
of course.
and I would always just add a little more alcohol than it called for, because I figured that way, like,
They wouldn't know.
cover up that I didn't know what I was doing. I've gotten much better at making a balanced drink these days,
That's
but
hilarious.
oh my gosh, when I think of some of those, I've got some stories from those days that are probably not appropriate for the podcast, but I can tell you offline. But I love doing recipe development, and I love doing mocktails. That was something, as I mentioned, we were like, my husband and I were like, okay, we can't do cocktail recipe development
Yep.
every day. This is bad. Let's start doing mocktails. And I actually recently had a thing where I couldn't drink for a while. And then especially too, I got COVID earlier last year, and so couldn't drink for that. And so mocktails have actually sort of become more of a way of life for me. I probably drink non-alcoholic now more than
And I
alcohol.
think too, because there's now spirits too, that the actual alcohol is taken out of the spirit. So we're having non-alcoholic tequila, non-alcoholic
Yeah.
gin, which
It's like
sounds weird, but
it's a mocktail renaissance. I mean,
yeah,
and I
pretty
can
much.
remember when I was in college, I had like decided I wasn't going to drink for a semester. I was like, I'm going to bunker down. I'm going to like get through it. And when I'd go out, it was lime and soda.
Yep,
Right, walking around with lime and soda water, and especially in Louisiana, right outside New Orleans in those days, you get an eyebrow up for it too. Like
sure.
what? And so I feel like it's destigmatizing
Yes, for sure.
non-alcoholic. It's no longer about pregnancy and sobriety. People have
Yep.
so many reasons why they don't drink.
And
Um,
also people don't feel like, and I'm the classic person that over asks all these weird questions, but like in the day when someone didn't drink, I would be like, "Oh, are you in recovery?" Because my whole family had been in recovery, and at the time, that was a pretty obvious question. Now, when someone's not drinking, it doesn't even really occur to me to assume they're in recovery at all, just because
yeah,
there's so many people that are not drinking for whatever reasons.
I mean, a lot of it is nowadays. I find I just feel better
Yeah, health
in
for
the
sure.
morning as I get older. Now I'm in my 40s, and so
Yeah,
I don't bounce back like I used to. And
yeah,
so
exactly.
it's like I want to get stuff done this weekend, but I also want to have something delicious and something special. And especially like if you go out to a bar, it's it would be so unfair to be like, okay, well, we have Coke for you.
Yeah, yep.
Everybody else is like has these really interesting flavors. And that's what I do love about the syrups, is that there's a complexity. I think, I'm biased, but like there's a complexity of flavor. But then especially, yeah, mix them with an NA distilled spirit like abstinence, Love those. Seed Lip is another good
Yep.
one. I mean, really just go down, was it Marigold? You can,
Yes.
she's got everything. You can try,
Is she
whatever.
carrying your product too?
No, not yet. I actually, it's funny. I bought from her, but I haven't reached out to her. So
Oh, you need to.
I
Yeah,
should
she'd
probably do
like your
that.
product.
I should probably do that.
Yeah,
So thank
she
you for
would like it.
mentioning that.
So, how hard has it been for you to get on shelves, and where can people find your products now?
It's varying rates of challenges. Sometimes it feels so easy and effortless, and it's like, wow, people said this was hard. And sometimes it's, oh wow, this is really hard. We are primarily in liquor stores. We work with a distributor called Maverick, and they have been absolutely wonderful, especially for a small little micro business like
Yep.
mine. They've just been really supportive in getting me out throughout the state. And so I was really excited. I know you have a place up there. We have our hibiscus rosehip is in Ely.
Yep.
And so I was so excited for that. I was like, yes, I just think that's been really great. And then also to starting to branch out into more gift stores, kind of going that route. So you can find us in local liquor stores, primarily Twin Cities area, but on our website, it does have a list at the socialmixers.com has a where to buy list. So, and then
And
you can order on the website too.
yeah, how often do you are you trying to sell into bars and restaurants as well?
It's funny. So that got totally tabled with the pandemic. And then it was all about, okay, I need to get this product and I have to figure out how to bottle it and how to, how to do it all legally, how to have a legal business. That was sort of phase one. And then phase two, it was really direct consumer and then getting it into these liquor stores. And now that I think we're moving into phase three. So it really is, now I'm actually starting to revisit that original plan of bars and coffee shops and
Yep.
restaurants. So yeah, so I'm hoping to do some work with that this year.
When you look at, what do you spend the most of your time on? Is it development? Is it packaging? Is it marketing? Is it social? Is it finances? How do you break up your time?
That's a really good question. And it really depends on the week. It really depends on the week. Right now, so we're also on Amazon. We launched on Amazon last year. And so this week I've been working on packaging items to send to Amazon because I have to package them a slightly different way. And so that's been their focus because I'm trying to restock there. And then next week I've got sales is going to be the priority. And, I haven't really done much of that since the end of 2022. So,
Yep.
Wanted to give everybody a holiday break without seeing my email or getting my phone call. So going to start focusing on that. So it really depends. I'm still a really small, it's me most of the time. My husband also, thank goodness for him, he does finances. My brain, I'm a flavor girl.
Right.
My brain does things with numbers that would probably get us audited.
I
So,
like though the way that you talk about, it almost sounds like you're chunking your work
mhm. Yeah,
into strategic chunks of time.
I try to figure out ways to focus. I learned early on when I was like, I'm going to just do everything. I'll spend an hour here and an hour here and an hour here. It never worked out. I would just feel so disorganized. And I also felt like nothing was happening and I was just falling behind. And so that's what I found is to just kind of figure out these focal points. I'm really hoping this is the year. And I think we're there to where I can start bringing in some help, and so that'll change things. And I haven't quite decided, is it going to be help in the kitchen? Is it going to be help with packaging? I haven't quite figured out that piece yet, but the business is it's finally getting sustainable to where that can happen, which is exciting.
That is exciting because you're only in your second year, right?
We're in our third.
In your
So
third.
the
Okay.
first year was really just doing farmers markets. And of course, the first year you do a business, it's all just putting money into it. It's
Right.
always realizing, okay, and then this last year was really about growth. Instead of buying a few cases of bottles, I need to start buying pallets of
Yep.
bottles. And so it's just investing into some pieces of equipment to help us scale up. So,
What do you think was one of the smartest things you did when starting your business?
ooh, that's a great question. I mean, I would say there's two things that I tell people, if that's okay. Can I have two?
Yeah, two is good.
um, The first one is, I would say, if you are manufacturing your own product, go into a shared kitchen because you learn so much from other makers. That has been huge. I mean, just even little things like, I mean, I was juicing my own lemons. I had like a little Breville, like
Yep.
citrus juicer. I mean, it was an automatic one. So, but I still remember DJ from Lost Capital was like, there's another way, and he's like, you can go to somebody with a juicer and they'll juice them for you. And I was like, just blown away by that.
Yeah.
So I just shared, I was like, you just shared me hours and tears because it was a really like frustrating experience. So I'm so grateful for that and the tips I've learned from other makers. So that would be number one, commercial, like shared commercial kitchen to start, because you just learn so much and you meet the best people. And then the second piece is I think farmers markets are just a great way to start because you're face to face with your consumers and
Yeah.
they come back and they tell you how they used it. The number one use for our syrups, it's people putting it in seltzer.
Yep.
And when they buy the syrup, we would have these conversations about all the cocktails they're going to make. I had little recipe cards I'd give them. And then they would come back and say, hey, I just put it in my bubbly water and it was really good. And so
Yeah.
I love that. And I don't know if we would have learned that as quickly as the fact that like after the second market, people were coming back and telling us
Yeah.
that. So, and also too, mocktails, like how many people were using it for mocktails. We learned that from the markets and just what flavors people like and what flavors they might feel differently about. So it's been, yeah, I love doing markets.
Do you have any flavor that you tried that just doesn't work?
Oh gosh, I have several. I have several. Oh, I have some where, well, you know what? I have some that it's delicious, but it's too weird.
Yep.
Like it wouldn't sell. Like I have one and it was like a pink peppercorn Shoshana berry. And I was like, it's so good. And I think it will have a time and a place because I feel like Shoshana is a berry that's it's more medicinal, but I think it's gonna cross over at some
Yep.
point. And I remember I was like, this is so good. No one will buy this. I was like, they're
Yep.
gonna see it and be like, ooh. And I mean, a prime example is my lime coriander. I think it's delicious. I mean, it's so good. And yet I'll see people will see coriander and they'll kind of be like, ugh. And so that's when I always have to sample at the markets. Like, no, really, try it. It's so good.
And yet that's the one that got you nominated for this award.
I know that cracked me up when I saw that. And when I got the email, I was like, really? And then I was like, I knew it. I knew it was good.
Yeah. And sometimes the weirder things just take a little while to catch on, but they can be the point of differentiation.
We're ahead of the curve. So that's how I see it. And I've got some actually I'm still working on. I have some that just trying to get that balance of flavors. Like I have some that I'm not giving up on them. So
Yeah.
there's been a lot of there's our kitchen will get very sticky at home when I'm in like development mode. So
That's funny. Yeah. When you think about like how do you listen to podcasts? Are there other business articles that inspire you, business books?
oh, sure. Well, so I'm glad you asked that question because when I started the business, I was looking for entrepreneurial podcasts. And I was like, I think I just put it in like my Apple podcast app, like entrepreneurial. And that's how I learned about your podcast,
Oh, great.
Makers in Minnesota. And I
Yeah.
found it so helpful. And I went through and I literally listened to every single CPG, like maker. And then I went back and listened to the rest of them, because it's
Sure.
just hear what everybody's doing. But I found this to be really great, especially for Minnesota,
Yeah.
right? Because it's like, oh, just learning about different vendors that people work with and hearing different market names. And that was fantastic. And what's funny is some of your earlier guests are people that I've gotten to know in the food space and are now friends. And it's so funny because I'm like, oh, I remember listening to your podcast. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
she's so cool. And now they're
So
like,
funny.
that's been a great one. How I Built This,
Yeah.
Guy Raz. I just think, I mean, it's such a classic. And it's like, that's one I think is it's inspiring because what I like about that one is they always talk about the awful things that happen to. So it's like, if I'm having a bad week, I can go back and listen to like the Tate's Bake Shop one where like she lost yet everything taken from her and then like rebuilt this like national brand of delicious
Yep.
cookies. And so I love that one. That's those yeah, those are my two that are always on my like new episode, follow, download.
Are there one or two products that have come across your path in the last 6 months to a year that you're just like, wow, this is so amazing from a maker?
Oh, I mean, I would say the two I've got several that are in my regular, like just sort of like my routine. And one is I love well-rooted teas.
Yes, me too.
I love Rachel's tea. I just think, and she and I are now kitchen mates. Like we'll
Yep.
often be in the kitchen at the same time. And so seeing her process too, it's just so amazing what she does. And I think those teas, I love those. I have a joke. I keep meaning to shoot a video of it. Like I have a cabinet. It's like every tea she has.
Yeah,
Send that to her for Instagram because it's so funny. I open it up and I'm like, I have a well-rooted teas problem. It's a good one to
you're
have.
not alone.
Yeah, they're so good. I love that. I love Isadore nuts.
Yep.
I just love. Oh, they're so tasty. And in fact, what's funny is she has a lemon rosemary,
Yes.
and I have a lemon rosemary syrup, and so they're so. It's such a good combination. It's so good.
Yes.
And I saw in your cookbook you have a lemon rosemary lamb.
Yes.
I was like, okay, I'm gonna do one of these days. I'm gonna do a lemon rosemary like multi-course with
Oh,
like
that would be good. Yeah, with
like
salad
ham,
and
make a drink. Actually, I have this one right here. That's
yep. Yum. Sounds delicious. Well, Kat, it's been super fun to talk with you about social mixers, syrups, and I've just enjoyed meeting you and hope our paths will cross again soon.
oh, same. Thank you so much. This was
Yeah,
great.
thanks for being a guest on the Makers of Minnesota.
Thank you.
All right, we'll talk soon. Bye.
Sounds good. Bye.